and get this thing started.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Hey, everybody. For joining us on the video, watching later, welcome to the show. This is just our prep, even though we don't have the banner up right now. We're making sure audio works. We were just listening to some audio clips that we made years and years ago. Dang, they're funny. We're coming up on our 20th anniversary on May 1st. So we're kind of going into the archives and going, what do we got? First thing I pulled out made us laugh to tears. It was so dated.
Yeah.
we're collecting them up.
What'd you say? We're far enough away from that.
Oh, originally when we first started, we did like a retro show in, I don't think it was June, but somewhere in that 2005 era.
Yeah, it was not long after we
did
started.
A show as if we were in 1987 reviewing like the IBM PS2. And I went, wait, that was 18 years after that event. And now we're 20 years from that show. We're further away from the show we did a retro show on.
We can do the retro show on the retro show now.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, we're looking at the new iPod. It's got a click wheel.
Yeah. That was funny.
Yeah. All right. Let's
Good
see.
times, man. Good times.
I got you laughing on this still frame, but me, I look like I got no teeth.
I think they change it up. I don't think it's the same one every time.
Good thing it's Sunday.
Why is that?
That's just what I'm putting as I share the video.
Oh.
All right. Video shared.
Now, hey, by the way, if anybody's listening or sees this part, if you want to call in and leave us a message for our 20th anniversary, which we'll do in just a couple of weeks on April 27th.
What's the number?
7.
Did you forget? 707-530 chat. We say it every episode. I say it every episode.
You say it every episode.
707-530-2428.
There you go. Please call us or send in anything you want. You know, I don't know. Make it interesting.
Comment, congratulations. Questioning why we're still doing this. You get the idea. All right. We'll say that again during the audio recording. So
we're the reason there's not big corporation behind podcasts. Well, that's not right.
We're the reason most people think you can do this. So they go, if those two yahoos can do it,
yeah,
I'll get rich.
That's right. Hold on, I'm gonna take the sweatshirt off. Give me 1 second.
Yes, sir. This is 769, right? Yeah. Da 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 da. He sent me the graphic earlier. Okay, it's good there. Text is, episode 769. Wow.
All right, dear.
Oh, you got a corporate shirt on. I got a Technorama shirt on.
That's right. This is 10.
For those that didn't see, and they're on the video, it says, I'm on the same wavelength. And then we have, as Technorama podcast. That was our Patreon shirt last year. We're working on the design for this year. At least we will be soon.
We're thinking about planning on it.
We're gathering ideas.
We have 30% of a plan.
We have 30% of the plan to make the plan.
Right. That's correct.
Usually how it goes. We'll pull it together. Worst case by Dragon Con that we usually do, because that's when Craig and I have most creativity.
Yeah. And alcohol.
It's called ABV.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
All right. Let's start the audio recording then. Place this drink where I won't spill it. So we've done that in podcasting. In 3, 2, 1. Technorama episode 769. Binary System of Fun. Hey, welcome to Technorama, the show that takes a lighthearted look at tech, science, sci-fi, and all things geek. I am one of your hosts, Chuck Tomasi, and right over there is Craig Stepp. How are you, Craig? Oh, I forgot to say the show that takes a lighthearted look. I did that part. If you're returning listener, that's the part I forgot. If you're returning listener, welcome back. If you're new, welcome to the show. Now, I'm Chuck. That's Craig.
Podcast much, Chuck?
20 years. Still haven't got it straight. You think that part would... I'm surprised I don't trip over the lighthearted look at tech, science, sci-fi, and all things geek every time. That one's just like burned in ROM.
I know, right? Yeah. So I'm doing all right. How about you doing? How are you doing?
It's been an interesting week. We'll share that later, maybe on the
Okay.
Patreon show.
Ooh, okay.
There's some things coming up. And we've heard from some interesting people this week. Man, I got all kinds of people texting and sending messages that I haven't heard from in a while. But that's good.
What'd you do?
I like keeping in touch with people. I didn't do anything. It's
Were
not
you
like
on
I
the local news
No.
or something, and people go, "Oh, I should reach out to Chuck, make sure he's okay."
Well, Saturday was the April 5th, which is First Contact Day.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Borg tried to take us over, and then there was the synth uprising, but those are all in the future. So we checked in on Facebook, let everybody know we're okay.
Yeah.
Star Trek humor. Sorry if you missed it. April 5th. A lot of stuff happened on April 5th. It was also the anniversary that, no, it's my father-in-law's birthday. That's what it was.
Hey, by the way, I just saw, I don't know if you ever really watched it, but Dennis the Menace, I saw Jay North passed away.
He did?
Yes, he did.
Mr. Wilson!
He was, I think it said 73.
Is that all?
Well, that's,
I suppose he was a little kid in the early 60s, so he's not that much older than I am.
Yeah, he was, there's been a couple of actors I go, how old are they? And they're like just a year older than I am, but I always thought, wow,
Yeah.
they were probably, I thought they were much older. Yeah, he was 73.
Or when you think about your high school teacher seemed so old because when you were 17, they
Yeah.
were in their 30s, and you go,
Oh yeah.
that means they're 70 now. Like
Right.
that isn't that old anymore.
No.
We're closer to being brothers at this point.
Well, if you think about it, if you were, when you were around 15 in high school, your teacher, they were 30, is only 15-year difference.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is
But
like,
it seems like a much larger.
well, it's your entire lifetime when you're that age, but it's when you get to be 60, you're going 75. That's right around the corner.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been on my mind a lot lately is aging and aging out. But let's go to more cheerful things. Let's do some feedback from the listeners.
All right. Please.
Letters. Oh, we get letters. We get your letters every day.
Letters. Enunciate.
Mailman, mail today. Reach right in and pull one out. Those letters. I love those letters. Let's find out what you got to say.
Oh boy.
Mailman, mail today.
All righty.
All right, our question of the week was, what's the most, quote, futuristic thing you've tried that turned out to be a complete letdown?
It was those old X-ray specs you got out of the comic book.
I never ordered those. I didn't have the money.
I did. I literally mailed some change. I saved up some change.
Put coins in an envelope.
I did. Yeah, I did. I got them. And, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I realized how it worked. I went, oh, okay.
I'm just gonna go with
Level
anything
pop.
from wish.com.
Right.
Now it doesn't even have to be futuristic. It's just a letdown.
Yeah. It was like $1 or $2. I forget how much it was. And then they were shipping hand. I forget how much it was. It wasn't too much, but I remember putting coins in and having to go find a couple of quarters to go with it. So I did it though.
All right, Steve London writes in. He says that will have to be any form of AR glasses. It's just not there yet.
AR.
Augmented reality.
Yeah, I was gonna say the augmented. Yeah, I've looked at some because we were talking about our Amazon Echo frames.
Yes.
And I was looking at one from Halliday, which is another brand, but theirs has a little screen on it. It's in on the frame, so you don't actually, it's not on your lenses or anything, but you have to kind of look up, in the corner to see the little green screen and read
So
it.
somebody looking at you is gonna go, are they rolling their eyes at me?
Well, I started thinking like this, like, okay, how would these work? Okay, if I have to look up, somebody's gonna go, what are you looking at?
Right.
Is that worse than me just looking at my watch for a notification? Or
Or
listening to
or
the
you just
glasses.
hang them down on your nose, and then you don't have to look.
Right. But then, I was like, I think that would be more awkward. Imagine sitting
Yes.
across from your wife at dinner and you start looking up that
I
top.
know people that have that mannerism. Some people have like a facial tick, and some people have
Yeah.
the eyes that roll up. I know
Yeah.
people like that.
So I elected to pass because I was like, you know what, I can get notifications 100 different ways right now. I don't need another
Yep.
one.
Yep.
So,
Stephen Weshy writes, I never got to personally use one, but I think the Humane AI pin would fit this description.
again, I was excited about that thing. And then,
Explain this to me. I somehow missed this, or I know it by
Okay.
some other name. What is the Humane AI pin?
all right, so it was really a cool little device. It's a pin about about smaller than your thumb,
Okay.
and you would pop it on your shirt with a magnet behind it.
Yes.
All right. What was really cool about it is the technology had a laser in it. So instead of you pulling your phone out and looking at your phone, you would put your hand in front of and the interface is projected on your hand.
Oh.
Not only that, but you can, like a comm badge for Star Trek, you can make phone calls with it. You can ask it questions. And it
Yes.
used AI on the back end and would do things. So, but the problem was, I think, the speed of the responses was was a problematic, and it would heat up a little too much. So, and battery life, I don't think was as good as they expected.
Ow.
Yeah, you holding your shirt out. But it was a really cool idea. They packed a lot of good
Is
info.
this a Kickstarter thing?
No, it's a little bit further than that, but they finally closed the doors. Like I said, you should go look it up. It's interesting to see because I think it was a really cool project. It just a little bit ahead of its time, and the interface was kind of weird because you had to, move your hand and to make the menu go up and down and things like that. And if you asked it a response, you could look at it, But anyway,
Somebody walks up to you, and all of a sudden your alerts are on their shirt.
yeah. Whoa! Oh, I'm sorry.
Walks up, but Craig's shorter than me, so it's now shining a laser in his eyes, and it says, "Craig texted you," right in his face.
You're looking at somebody. It's like, "Hello, my name is."
That's helpful.
Anyway, it was really cool. You should go look it up. The YouTube videos
Just
up.
got a single red dot on your forehead, like you're about to get shot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Mike Robinson says solar-powered battery charger took over 5 days to build a full charge, and the battery started swelling after 5 charging cycles. Oh, that's sad. I hate it when you order something. This is like my Amazon Echo frames. Like, these are pretty cool, and then they stop working. Going, that was pretty sad. Fortunately, I got it working again at their expense.
You did? The replacement stuff we talked about. Yeah. Lone Guys Night said Twitter. That was a long-term investment, I think. A lot of us lost out
very
on.
disappointing.
And of course, Steve replied and said, "Are you referring to the platform X or formerly known as Twitter?"
Yes.
Yes, he was.
And Gary Lindros says sleep learning. That sounds futuristic. Is that kind of like when you sleep with the book under your pillow?
Yeah, you put or
the audio book in your ears?
Yeah. I can't imagine my wife would be okay with that. Hearing under the pillow.
It would. If sleep learning were a real thing, it would have worked great when I was in college because I slept through a lot of courses and never learned a lot.
Right. Yeah, of course. So.
All right, that rounds it out for this week. We'll have another question for you at the end of the show, so stick around for that. In the meantime,
another letter from our listener Dave.
wait a minute. I had to find the fader. It somehow clicked something wrong. On this day in history for April 9th, 2025, it's the 99th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar. That means in 2 days, it'll be 101. There are 266 days remaining in the year. Yeah, that adds up. We're good. I just do like a little checksum every once in a while.
Yeah.
It was on this date in 1682 that Robert Cavelier de la Salle discovered the mouth of the Mississippi River and claims it for France and names it Louisiana.
Yep.
After King Louis.
And April 9th, 1860, Edouard Leon Scott de Martinville made the first known recording of an audible human voice on his phonautograph machine, which, if you look at it, it's an interesting device, sort of like the tubes, that
1860. This is way before Edison did his Mary Had a Little Lamb thing.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
I shall call it the phonautograph.
That's a catchy name.
I shall call it the iPod.
Yeah, with the click wheel.
That same date in 1937, the Kamikaze arrived at Croydon Airport in London. It's the first Japanese-built aircraft. So nobody crashed into the airport, if that's the imagery you're getting from a kamikaze arriving at Croydon. No. So it's just the first Japanese-built aircraft to fly to Europe.
Okay. And April 9th, 1945, the United States Atomic Energy Commission was formed.
That same date in 1959, NASA announced the selection of the United States' first 7 astronauts, whom the news media quickly dubbed the Mercury 7, because they all took Mercury.
The first British-built Concorde 002 made its maiden flight from Filton.
Filton.
Filton. Oh, Filton, excuse me. Not, the I and the L were I read them backwards. Filton to RAF Fairford with Brian Trubshaw as the test pilot on April 9th, 1969. I was a mere, 2.5 months?
A squab. Happy birthday goes out on this date to German physicist and academic Thomas Johann Seebeck, born on this date in 1770.
And Polish-American mathematician and engineer Charles Proteus Steinmetz was born 160 years ago today.
Theodore Monod, the French explorer and scholar, was born on the same date in 1902.
American engineer invented the ENIAC, J. Presper Eckert, born on this date in 1919.
Was ENIAC open source?
No, but we have a story about something important that was open source.
African-American mathematician and aerospace engineer Mary Jackson was born 104 years ago today.
An American publisher founded Playboy Enterprises, Hugh Hefner, born on this date in 1926.
The Hef?
The Hef.
It would have been 99 today? Wow.
Changed the lives of a lot of teenage boys.
Careful. Yeah, leprosy doing that. Born April 9th, 1937, Canadian screenwriter and producer Marty Krofft.
And also born on that same date in 1954, American actor Dennis Quaid.
English computer scientist and academic Nigel Shadbolt was born in the state in 1956. And we have one, yes, count them, one beautiful birthday. April 14th is Danny Harnish. So happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to everyone who's got a birthday this week. If you are not on the birthday calendar, we wish you all the best. And if you want to be on the birthday calendar, you go over to chuckchat.com/birthday and fill out the form. It'll get your name on there, and we'll give you a shout out the appropriate time of year. It's a long list of wonderful people. That's the way it was on this day in history for April 9th, 2025. For some reason, when I was writing that, I was wanting to write 2016.
Do what?
When I was writing out the date this show, I almost wrote 2016. Go, where did that come from?
Yeah, you're going back in time.
All right, let's do some news.
Good news, nobodies.
Well, this is an interesting one because the people were commuting to work and had to drive around Mars.
Yeah, Mars
to get to
invades
work.
Earth.
Sorry, boss, I'm a little when Mars invades.
Yeah.
Sorry, boss, I'm a little late for work. I had to drive around Mars. What we're talking about is at the Kennedy Center, there are inflatable planets, like big blow up models of the planets. And Mars has got to be 12 feet in diameter or so, pretty big. Big. And it came off of its moorings and blew out onto the highway. So commuters were affected. You just see this big round thing rolling around on the highway, mostly inflated. It wasn't bouncing around like a beach ball.
Yeah.
but it was obstructing traffic in one of the lanes. People could still drive around it, but you had to be careful. I wouldn't want to hit it.
I was thinking Mars Attacks. Remember that movie?
Yeah.
The aliens were
King of the cheese movies.
Yes, it
That's right up there with B-list movies of my favorites. So yeah, they tried to get a comment from the Kennedy Center, and they didn't have any comment. They wouldn't acknowledge or deny that Mars.
That's not our Mars. That's not our Mars.
I didn't lose a planet. Did you?
Yeah. Did you? We asked everybody in the office. They said they didn't know about it.
Great. We better check with Michael Brown if we need to take another planet out.
Right.
First, it was Pluto's not a planet. Now Mars is gone. This makes the school kids happy.
Yeah. What's going to happen with Saturn and Jupiter and the rest?
My very good. Oh, we need to make a new acronym, a new mnemonic to remember the planets.
Yeah. I propose Rory G. Biv.
No, Mr. Biv said you can't use that under copyright law.
Stupid laws.
In other space news, we have a once-in-a-lifetime star explosion set to be visible from Earth. This comes to us from theexpress.com. Space news. There is a star system out by the Corona Borealis called T Coronae Borealis, aka Blaze Star. It's about 3,000 light years away, and every 80 years it does one of those things you see on, well, they had an episode of Star Trek on this, TNG, where the big red giant is getting material sucked off it by a white star, and the white star swelled up, and it goes kaboom. Well, we're about due for that any day. In fact, they predicted it a couple of times, but it's like, those people who try to predict the end of the earth and never quite get it right.
Wait, we meant next year.
Well, that's what they're saying is now it could be, where was it? End of November or possibly next year in 2026 or 2027. There it is. They're saying astronomers have been predicting when the star will explode, and many of the dates have come and gone without success. Stargazers are now expecting the explosion to happen on a later predicted date, including November 10th, June 25th, 2026, and February 8th, 2027. I don't know. You don't know what the cycle is on this thing, but it could be any day. It could be tonight. They just don't know. So
I often thought
80-year cycle, so it's going to happen soon.
I often thought a lot of the planetary science most of it is theory, right? Because we haven't really left our own planet to go. I mean, to some degree, but a lot of it's in theory. Now you're starting to see the cracks that they're making this stuff up.
They're not making it up. They just can't predict it.
Because
it's a bit like predicting when will this to the second, when will Old Faithful erupt? You can't.
Yeah.
Because there's external factors at play.
That's not true, because Old Faithful's
it's roughly
faithful. It's in the name.
Yeah.
It is in the name. You know that.
Uh-huh. And you know that the timing has changed since they discovered it.
Has it?
Yes.
Fake
you gotta
news.
watch more science videos, man. This is
That's
fun.
fake news. That's fake news.
Fake news. I will say that yes, there are theories and the theories are based on current observations, and the observations help make a predictive model. So, speaking of which, when we get to something cool,
Speaking of models,
in a little bit. Hold on, that's the Hacks and Strange Stories, but we got one more news story to go through, and this is a gentleman who used an AI avatar as his lawyer. What was it, to represent him in court?
I was trying to figure out if it was to represent him or he was representing himself, but he wanted to look like somebody else. So he made an AI avatar of himself, or I'm sorry, of someone.
The man himself couldn't speak very clearly. He stuttered and stammered, and so he came up with an AI avatar, and it looked nice, but it was, the judges caught on in like the opening statement.
Yeah, what's going on here? Yeah.
They said, this isn't right. May it please the court, the man began. I come here today, a humble pro se, before a panel of 5 distinguished justices. And one of them says, hold on.
Yeah.
Is this counsel for the case? He said, no, I generated that. that's not a real person. The defendant asked DeWald. He said, in fact, an avatar generated by artificial intelligence, and the judges were not pleased. They feel they had been hoodwinked. They feel that they should have been told ahead of time that
Mhm.
this was a thing. And now there's going to be backlash saying, you can't do this.
Well, you
So
should. Hey, I mean, this is as bad as almost like that guy that went to court and he was the cat avatar. I'm not a cat. Remember that?
well, we've
But
already found out that AI does not have a good track record in court because certain disreputable lawyers are using it, and it starts citing cases that don't exist,
Yes, right.
including Mr. Cohen, who used to be the former lawyer for a certain current president,
Mhm.
which we will not name. And it's like you have at this point, you have to take generative AI as a research assistant and do the fact checking yourself. I just told this to some people this week that when they asked, what do you think AI is going to do for developer jobs? I said, developer jobs are going to get a little more thought provoking. You will be doing more architecture because
Mhm.
the mundane task of find the average of these three numbers in JavaScript can be written by AI. Great. Take that, make sure it makes sense and it does what
Yeah,
you
run
expect
some
it to
numbers
do.
through it, make sure it works. Yeah.
And in that case, it's no different than getting, your code off
Google.
Stack Overflow or
Yeah.
Google or a
Stack Overflow.
community. You have to understand what
Mhm.
it's doing. Same thing in court. You have to do your fact checking. Jonathan Strickland did one of his last episodes of Tech Stuff before he turned it over.
Mhm.
Was it was a it was an AI generated podcast, and he said, make a topic in the theme of this show, of my show, and it started making up people as authoritative sources. And he did the fact checking on that, going, this is wrong, this is made up, this was pretty close, this is actually right, this
Mhm.
was fascinating but not true, and it was full of holes like Swiss cheese. And this is the same kind of thing. If you present AI, first I would let whoever's receiving this information know, and Clinton just did this too. He said, now this part was done by AI,
Right.
and you'll find out why. And
Mhm.
he did it for comedic effect. But it's I don't
Well,
know.
in this case, it's probably not as extreme because it's just a representation of him, but it's his words, right? The
Yeah.
AI didn't say was it the
Oh,
AI saying the
no,
words?
the AI made it up, the words. The AI
Oh, well,
AI
then
made
that's
up
a
the words.
problem. Then that's a problem. I would,
Because
yeah,
he wasn't articulate enough.
yeah, that's
So,
a problem then. Well, neither was the AI avatar. Yeah.
you know,
Okay. I thought he just had an avatar, but that's right. You're right. You're right. I forgot the.
fact checking,
Mhm.
research assistant, disclosure. Keep
Mhm.
those in mind if you're using generative AI. I'm not against AI. I think it's a wonderful tool for many things. We use it for the artwork on this show.
Oh yeah,
For
I make stuff all the time. Although
Yeah,
I wish I had the time to sit there and make things on my own, which I could, but I work, so
you do?
it's easy to throw some stuff. Huh?
You do?
Well, one of us does.
You do? I get text messages from you at all hours.
Shoot, it's all right. I can text
Look at that
anytime.
funny video. Aren't you supposed to be working?
I am working. I take breaks here and there. Yeah,
No breaks allowed. Keep that stock price up. It needs it.
yeah.
We're not going there. We're not going there. We're not going there. It gets too political at that
Mm-mm.
point. All right, let's get into the hacks and strange stories then. I think it's that button. Well, for every law, there are exceptions. And
Except for the legal ones.
well, the law of thermodynamics has a bending rule.
Mhm.
Normally, I love the way that they said this. They said there's this topic in thermodynamics called emulsification.
Right.
You may be familiar with this if you've ever blended two materials together. The example they gave in here was the Italian salad dressing. You
Yes.
got oil and you got vinegar and seasoning in there, right? And when you pull it out of the fridge, it's usually separated. So you shake it all up
Mhm.
and then you pour it out and you get a nice even distribution of oil, vinegar, and spices. Well, that's the way it goes most of the time when you introduce that third element in there, like the seasoning into the salad dressing. But that topic of emulsification covers a wide variety of materials. What they did in this experiment is they took oil and water and
Mhm.
put in some magnetized nickel, and they shook this thing up, and it always came back to this interesting shape. They're calling it like the shape of an urn. I don't think it looks like an urn.
You know what it looks like to me? It looks like
It-
those little measure weights.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was going to say. When
Mhm.
you have the measuring weight that you put on the scale that says this is a gram and this is,
Yeah.
kilogram, it's got sort of this anvil shaped head on it with a narrower neck, and then it flares out. They shook this thing up and it keeps returning this same odd shape. And these research scientists at MIT Amherst, University of Massachusetts Amherst, they discovered this. They said, what would happen if we put magnetized nickel in here? And they went, this is weird. And they started running down the hall, knocking on the doors of all the professors, go, look what we found. What do you make of this? And one of them
I'm
said,
busy.
they said, okay, for emulsification, those spices in your salad dressing, they're
Mhm.
actually weakening that interface layer between the oil and the vinegar.
Oh, almost like
That-
breaking the surface
Yeah,
tension.
that's exactly what they're doing.
Mhm.
Magnetized nickel, on the other hand, is actually strengthening that. So they said, it's a cool effect. We don't know what this will lead to, but hey, it's ours now.
Yeah, it's ours now. Great.
You never know. This looks like something they would have come up on a space station or something going, look at this in zero gravity. I wonder what
Yeah.
it would do in zero gravity.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be interesting to see. Because the water, of course, would want to kind of spear up,
Yes.
but I don't know what
It's
this would do on the
it's in
inside.
like a little cylinder.
That's just what we want to do, is release some magnetized particles in the space station.
And water and oil.
Wait, catch it! Don't let it hit the panel.
You just slurp it up with a straw. Salad dressing full of magnetized nickel.
Italian dressing. Mhm.
Hey, Raphael, come drink this.
Yeah,
You're Italian, right?
yeah, you're Italian, right? Let's see how your shape changes.
It's no good for me. I am not drinking that crap. You tricked me with the Red Bull last week. I'm not drinking anything you say.
Yeah.
I apologize to any of my Italian friends.
I was saying,
I have Italian heritage as well, so I'm insulting myself,
yes.
which happens all the time.
I will say, yeah.
All right, quick shout out to the chat room. We got somebody out there, but nobody's chatting. Nobody's chatting. We can't even say hi to you, but hi, whoever's watching on Facebook and YouTube. They come along at 8:30 on Sunday nights, 8:30 Eastern time, I should say. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. Just set an alarm or subscribe to the YouTube channel, whatever. You'll get the warning. And then you say, hey, honey, I'm sorry. I can't take the kids to dance class. I have to watch Technorama.
Right.
Or you can watch Technorama at dance class. That works.
Yeah. While you're dancing.
We'll help. One
Yeah.
and two, and one and two.
And turn.
Pas de deux, pas de three, pas de four. I'm sorry. That's just sad humor.
Yes, very much so.
Okay. We look forward to seeing you on there. Join us on the live chat Sunday nights at 8:30. Anyway, let's move on to. Oh, we got to remember something. Here's where we were going. We have a short less than 5 minute video. It's like 4.5 minute video of a computer salesman's stunning 1979 vision of what computers will become. So this is 1979. You could see there's an Apple II in the background. They've got some other computers around, and they're talking to two gentlemen in particular. And one is telling you how computers can be very, I'm going to use the word addictive because that's what resonated with me.
Yeah, that's where I think that's where they're kind of going with that a little bit.
Once you start getting into this, it's like they seem foreign at first, but once you start understanding that you have control over this machine and can create solutions out of it, it becomes very addictive. In fact, one guy said, "I've got a 14-year-old son." I'm like, yeah, I was, or 15-year-old son. I said, I was 14 at that time, and he didn't really. The man himself is an electrical engineer and wanted to introduce his son into this. And together, he said, "I got him a mini computer." Well, they call them microcomputers today.
Yeah.
What did you get him? PDP-10? What did you get him?
Yeah.
Altair? What?
We had to put an expansion onto the house, but we got it in.
16K.
Yeah.
And he said it was a great bonding exercise between them. He bought a whole bunch of manuals and taught themselves how to program. And I'm like, where's this kid today? We want to talk to him.
I know.
Because he's our age.
Actually, at the beginning, when the guy was talking and the gentleman's in the back showing the kid how to use the Apple II,
yeah,
I was thinking, oh, this little Chuck Tomasi, little Chucky Tomasi.
I can make it make a laser sound. Pew, 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 pew.
I liked a little bit later, another gentleman was talking, and you can see a more wide angle shot of the store. And I was thinking, there used to be a place in Rock Hill, little computer shop. It had shelves like that, and software was in.
I worked at a store very similar to that about 85, 86.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So we used to, seeing that shelf reminded me that there was a friend we knew, him and a few other people were writing software, and they would put the diskettes in the
clear plastic Ziploc bag.
Like almost like Ziploc bags. Almost.
That's exactly what they were. So you hang them on those pegboards.
Hang them on the pegboards, put them on those shelves. Yeah, it was a good time, man. This brings like a lot of memories.
Watch the video. There's a couple of questions that are like, really? When are we getting that?
Yeah, right. The place I'm talking about was software and so forth. But yeah, we used to go in there all the time.
It was fun.
Yeah.
All right. We also have another article that showed up on CNET. Bill Gates has published the original Microsoft source code in a blog post. Well, he published the Altair assembler code for the BASIC interpreter because as he put it, 19-year-old Gates and his Harvard pal Paul Allen reached out to Altair's creators and told them they had a version of the programming language BASIC for the chip that the Altair 8800 ran on. Such software would let people program the Altair. There was one problem. They hadn't written it yet.
Oh, yeah.
So they went home, and I was looking through the PDF. You could actually see this source code. Yes. The first 9 pages are like defined statements where they're defining constants and variables, things that will be used later. And it is meticulously documented. They did an awesome job with their commenting the code and every little subroutine that's being used. I couldn't understand the majority of it, but it didn't have significant. If you've looked at assembler before, you see there's the text that they write for the assembler. Then there's usually a comment section off to the right, and on the left is the opcodes, the machine language that would be punched in. And there wasn't much before about page 9. And they put their full names in there. It's like, this was written by Bill Gates and Paul Allen on such and such a date. Like, I remember doing that like in 1982. Some of the first code that I wrote still has my name in it and the date we wrote it. And I'm like, wow, what a different time.
Hey, what's really cool is the PDF that you're talking about. It's the tractor feed paper, and they scanned it in. And as soon as you pull it up, it's like, whoa, haven't seen that in a long time.
157 pages. Someone needs to put this on GitHub.
I thought it was.
That would be great.
Yeah, I think they actually did. I may be wrong, but I thought that was the case. But yeah, and I think this is all because Microsoft is 50 years old now.
Yes, they coded day and night for 2 months to create the software they said already existed. It was one of those, oh crap, they took us up on our offer.
Yeah.
And the company was actually Micro-Soft with a capital S. So they removed the hyphen and lowered the S.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting. I totally forgot about the original name.
Yeah.
So I can't say that I've got code from 50 years ago because I wasn't writing code 50 years ago. I was writing code starting in about 1981.
Right.
I have some of that. I don't know if we still have any. Scott Reynolds has code for the BBS that we ran in the late 80s, early 90s. And I know that my old ticketing system from over 30 years ago is still running.
Oh.
That's
Still-
called
Yeah.
technical debt.
Yeah. I think the oldest thing that there's a couple of things that come to mind. The oldest things I wrote. One was, and I've talked about it here before. My friend, his family had a video store, and he had a PC Junior. He got a PC Junior for his birthday.
Yeah.
So I got this bright idea that I was going to write some software for the PC Junior that would manage who had what tapes when they checked them out. And they started to use it, and then the guy, like a couple weeks after that, a guy came in and sold them a whole setup. I'll say professional, but wrote another app
Mhm.
for that and sold them the machine and everything. I was like, man, I was just ahead of my time.
Had a lot of ideas that didn't come to fruition, and then somebody else did, but they usually did a much better job. I think we had to call Bill Gates and say, I found a bug. Can you send out a
Right.
patch?
Yeah, there's a typo. Actually, the other thing I wrote was a game on the Commodore 64 based on the TV show V.
Yes.
I gotten the idea to do it because Pitfall Activision had a pamphlet you could write in for, and they showed you how they did the Pitfall Harry, and with his legs. It's really only like 3 frames.
Right. There's little sprites. Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I can do this. And I got really good at doing those kind of sprites. Myself and some other friends, we all got good at this kind of thing, sprites. And I ended up making a V game where you had to escape one of the alien ships, get on a shuttle, and the game kind of turns from running through hallways, like Pitfall Harry would, to Zaxxon, when you get out into a shuttle and you leave the ship. And I had to try and make the other ship follow you, but not. I mean, the software would obviously know which direction you're pushing the joystick, but I had to randomly have it do negative numbers instead of random, so it would kind of jitter. It wouldn't follow you perfectly. It'd randomize it a little bit, and I actually looked pretty good, convincing. I'd go right, the ship might accidentally go left, the other ship.
Yep.
It was fun. Had a great time making that. And speaking of months, I probably spent all my free time just coding away, making it happen.
I still do that.
Yeah.
As I mentioned on our last Patreon show, my birthday week. So what would that have been? The 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th. I spent an excessive amount of time, inappropriately amount of time, creating a Node.js integration between Patreon and Notion, just because I wanted the Patreon information in my Notion database. It was a great educational experience, and I learned a lot, and I have a lot of tips to share should it ever come up. Probably won't make it public yet. It's not as well documented as Bill Gates's code, shall we say?
Well, he's had 50 years to go back and edit it.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's a passion, like the people in that video talked about before. It gets under your skin. And one guy was saying, me and my son, we realized we were spending more time on the computer than we were interacting with the rest of the family. Like, yes,
I've done that. Yes.
Yes, we've all done that. You have tasted the Kool-Aid.
That's right.
All right. That takes care of the Remember When segment. Now it's time to my favorite part of the show. Thank our patrons. These are the people that make this show possible financially, because they went over to patreon.com/Technorama podcast and gave us as little as $1 an episode to keep this show shambling on.
Right.
A shambling mess. Alexis Duran, Amber Elstad. These are the people I imported into Notion.
It works.
Now I could read them right out of my Notion database. I can see data that I hadn't seen before. Amber Elstad, Amy Bowen, Abner Braverman, Ben Vaughn, Brad Miller, Brian Brown, Chris Martinez, Chris MC, Dan D. Mancoyer, Dean Jensen, Denise Inglis, Gary Lindros, Jason Pollard, John Clifford, John Noble, Yorga Shrawan, Crazy Joe, Kyle Nishioka, Leon, Mark Kilfoyle, Mike Wills, Saturday Morning Media, Stephen Weshy, Steve Cody, Steve Therian, Steve Webb, Steve London, and Tim Cook. Thank you, all 29 of you. Let's see if we can make that 30 or even 34 or 30.
There's 3 empty squares there.
304. That would be fun, wouldn't it? We've got a 20-year anniversary coming up.
That's right.
Thank you, everybody. Whether you're a $1, $2, $5 patron, we appreciate it greatly. You keep this show going. And every month, I get a smile on my face on the 5th of the month when Patreon does its little transfer over to PayPal. I go, yes, we can pay for bandwidth, and we can pay for Alphonic, and we can pay for StreamYard this year. So looking forward to that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Patreon.com/Technorama podcast is where you want to go. Okay, now we have the part of the show where we talk about what we've been reading, watching, listening to, or whatever. I have just finished up season 1 of Evil on Paramount Plus. I think the first season was 2023, 22. It's a fairly old show.
Mm-hmm.
No, maybe it was 2020 or 2021. And it took about a year and a half to get the second season. And there's the third season. I don't know if they're going for a fourth, but I was turned on to this by Scott Tyler. And he said he was watching it. So I started watching. And it's reminiscent in a way of Supernatural from the CW. If you remember that with,
Yep.
Yeah. And with Jensen Ackles and I'm drawing a mental blank and somebody's going to take away my geek card at this point, but it's not as there's a woman who is like a legal doctor, psychologist that steps into these cases where people go, oh, I'm legally insane. And she goes, no, you're not. And her job is in jeopardy. And then she's offered a job by the Catholic Church to say, hey, we need you on our team to determine if these people are really demonically possessed or faking it. The guy who is the main character, who's a priest in training, is the same guy who was Luke Cage.
Oh yes, that's right. I do remember that. That's right.
So he does a great job with this character as well. And then there's a third character who's sort of the techno guy, says, no, this person is just suffering from lead poisoning or something. And but it doesn't always turn out the way you expect. And it takes about to episode 4 or 5 for the main story arc to start forming, which was a little disappointing. Like, where are they going with this? Where they go? Oh, I see a pattern forming here where they're carrying a larger arc than episodic. And the actors do a great job. The story writing is really well done, and it's pretty dark and heavy stuff at times. I can watch one episode and go, "Oof, I need to process that one," because that just weighs on you. It's not something you can mainstream like 6 in a row and go, "Oh, that was good. I can't stop." It's like I want to stop. There's a couple episodes where like, please stop. They do have a few good cliffhangers. So I'll watch like the first 10 minutes of the next episode and go, there, now that's where I'll start next time, because I'm not watching the rest. I like it. It's a really good show. And a number of other people that I've talked to said, oh, I watched that. It's pretty good. Scott is on season 3, so I got a bit of catching up to do. And I'm not doing a very good job this week, but done with season 1 of Evil on Paramount Plus. I rate it very highly if you're into the sci-fi stuff. There is a bit of gore, but I wouldn't say a huge amount of gore.
Okay. So I didn't even know this was a thing, but Kevin Bacon is in a show called The Bondsman, and he is a bondsman, that bonds people out of jail, and
like Dog the Bounty Hunter. No, he's the guy they go after when they don't pay.
He's not a bounty hunter, but he's a bondsman. Anyway, so trying to keep you out of jail, pays for you to get out of jail, but you better show up or he's gets money. Anyway, it starts off where he gets killed, and you find out that he's actually been resurrected, and now he's supposed to start hunting demons and stuff and dispatching demons. There's a little more to the story than just that, but we watched 3 episodes, and I just don't really do well with the demon stuff.
Okay, you might not like Evil then.
Yeah, probably not. So, but I can see the show's not bad, and it's got some good reviews. People love it, but it's just not 100% for me. Just I don't know, just the whole demon thing. But it is pretty good. If you're interested, you like Kevin Bacon, give it a shot.
You know, you can spell 4 words out of those 4 letters: Evil, Live, Levi, Live.
Yeah,
Pretty well. Funny.
Vile.
File.
Yeah.
The other one I've got, I think I've watched before, because Netflix doesn't tell you unless you're watching an episodic show that you've actually watched it before.
Right.
Absolutely bizarre. So if I see one that says 6 episodes, first thing I do is go, show me the episode list. If there's a bunch of red lines, I go, no, not again. You can't fool me. But I did watch this one and forgot a few of the finer details. It's called Einstein and the Bomb on Netflix.
Yeah, I watched it too. It's called Oppenheimer.
No, Oppenheimer. I was getting some scenes from Oppenheimer mixed up with this show going, oh, is this a part where oh, that's in the other show?
Yeah. Is this where they fight demons?
This is a bit of reflection of Einstein right before he passed away, kind of thinking about, and it had lots of flashbacks and flashbacks to flashbacks. So it was anywhere from 1905 to 1923 to 1933 to 1939 and 1945 and then 1955, right before he passed away. So it was kind of a nice look at his thoughts and his interactions. And then in 55, Japanese guy comes up to him and says, hey, it's been 10 years since the bomb was dropped. And, how do you feel about being responsible for that? He says, I was not responsible. I came up with a theory like 50 years ago saying that matter and energy are related, and a small amount of matter could be converted into a large amount of energy. It was a theory. Nothing was tested. And people ran with that. It's a bit like Star Trek TOS saying, hey, communicators flip open and then we talk. And then people say, oh, that led to the, flip phones. We have cell phones today because of Star Trek. Yeah, kind of.
I think. Yeah.
If you really want to stretch that imaginary
inspiration,
line, it was inspiration. Yeah. Science works a little bit differently than that, but I found it very interesting. It was an hour, it's either an hour and a half. It wasn't terribly long, but very informative, very enlightening, and the acting was done well. They had some real clips of like when he was making speeches at the Albert Hall in London. Kind of a sad story too, because when he left Germany, he went to England first.
Right.
And then he started saying, I don't think I'm getting back to Germany ever again. When he got to the US, he said, no, I'm not.
I'm going further away.
I can't go back to Germany. So he lost a lot in this. And he never really wanted to be a rock star. He said, I'd be perfectly happy to sit in a corner and be doing equations all day. That's the life I want. But the press made him out to be this superhero and very smart guy. And he had a lot of speaking engagements, which I suspect paid the bills. So Einstein and the Bomb on Netflix. That's taken us towards the end of the show. We have a few links in the Geek Library. Once again, I went through my YouTube watching for the last week and picked some that I thought would be very interesting to you. Oh. One that says, can we recreate the World's Fair exhibit with a laser disc and an Apple II? There was a World's Fair exhibit in 1980, I believe it was, with an Apple II and a laser disc and a touch screen that was kind of interactive, because the laser disc was the only way they could get quote unquote streaming video. Remember Dragon's Lair?
Yes, of course.
You could jump to any point on that disc. And he said, how do we do that? We'll need a serial cable. With a laser disc had a DB15 on it. The serial port on the Apple was a DB25. So he hand soldered a serial cable, as we all used to do.
I've done that. I've done that before.
Pins 2, 3, and 7 are your friends. And despite the documentation, he still got it backwards. So he straightened that out. There's one,
man, which pin was it?
There's one from what is it? Practical Engineering, called Why Are Beach Holes So Deadly? People die digging holes at the beach because they dig too deep and then the sand collapses.
Well, how about when when they do construction, they put the metal
Yes,
brace in there to keep the walls from collapsing
that's
in.
why. And sand actually changes consistency. And
Yeah, you get a little
density,
wet,
whether
it'll
it's wet or dry, or too wet or too dry. So even as the day goes on, you may be working along fine in one moment, and then he said, "Here's how to solve the problem." And he got to the end. He said, "Don't dig a hole deeper than your knees."
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I've done some elaborate castles, but I didn't get in it.
There's a talk about the 2024 New Jersey earthquake. It's all about the formation of the Atlantic Ocean and the breakup of Pangea, and how that may actually be rebounding. Because I've heard this story before. They said, in the future, million, 2 million, 10 million years from now, the Atlantic Ocean will start to decrease and the continents will start to come together again. Like, well, how does that work? Because that mid-oceanic ridge seems to be doing a pretty effective job at pushing things apart.
It's like a legal nightmare. Something for future generations to worry about.
Will that mean trade will be easier? You could just build a train that goes to Europe. That'd be nice.
Pass it over. Yeah.
There's a video on the Timex Sinclair 1000/ZX81, and this guy had 3 of them, and he's mixing and matching parts to figure out what works and what doesn't, and I think out of the 3 he had 2 that actually turned out to work. Pretty fun stuff. There's another one on the Nostalgia Nerd channel called "These Keys Shouldn't Exist." If you look at your keyboard, does the pipe character, the little vertical bar, is it solid or does it have a break in it?
If it had a break in it, it'd be a colon.
No.
This one's solid.
Okay, they're solid now. It goes through some wonderful talk about the character standards from the 50s to the 60s to the 70s and the 80s. ASCII wasn't always ASCII, and IBM didn't adopt the official ASCII. There were 6-bit versions and 7-bit versions and 8-bit versions. It was really clear, and it got really confusing, especially when you get to the UK keyboard that had both a solid vertical and a broken vertical bar. And it gets into DOS, it gets into Unix. It is really fascinating.
Well, remember when we were at the Computer History Museum and we were going in the back, what they call it, the visual storage.
Yeah.
And I remember saying we turned down one row and they had all those old Commodore 64 PET machines, excuse me. They were Commodore PETs that had all the different weird keyboards for different things. And
it's mind-boggling to think that there weren't a whole lot of keyboard standardizations throughout. Every vendor had their own one, and sometimes they had multiples as they went through generations of a machine.
Yeah.
One other video that I want to call out, it's called the Stannard Rock Lighthouse Tragedy. Stannard Rock is an outcropping that comes up to 12 feet of the surface in Lake Superior, cause of numerous shipwrecks. And they built a lighthouse on top of this. Very difficult engineering feat. It's been called one of the most impressive engineering accomplishments ever to build this. And I think they did it in the 1870s. They built this lighthouse on top of a submerged rock. The tie-in is it's STANNARD, not Standard Rock. It's Stannard Rock.
Okay.
That is my maternal grandmother's maiden name.
Oh, really?
She is related to the gentleman in 1835 who named that place, that reef. So I have two geographical markers I can claim. One is Stannard Rock in Lake Superior. The other is Furlong Creek along Highway 117 in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
The rock that this is built on, because I'm looking at the thumbnail here, how far below the surface is it?
12 feet.
Wow. So a ship could run right over it and damage.
Well, especially if you think of waves in Lake Superior, it can be 30 feet high, which means it's 15 feet high and 15 feet down. So, yes.
I mean, it's
a big storm, you would see that rock.
I mean, but it's high enough in the underwater, of course,
Yes.
You could just scrape across it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Which is why they needed a lighthouse out there, because prior to the Industrial Revolution, there weren't a whole lot of ships traveling around going, hey, we got to get some iron ore from the
Mhm.
Upper Peninsula of Michigan and Minnesota down the Great Lakes. And the opening of the Sioux Locks between Lake Superior and Lake Huron made shipping in Lake Superior way more productive, which meant there were more ships, which meant there were more accidents, which meant there needed to be more lighthouses. I think they said in the period of 10 years, they constructed 200 lighthouses on Lake Superior.
Wow, that's a lot.
Uh-huh. Now, most of them are just like, here's a wooden shack with a light on top of it.
Hey, Frank, bring the cardboard and duct tape out.
Get up on the roof with your flashlight, with your lantern, Harry.
Wave it around. That's right.
We have a lighthouse. We'll get budget for it later. All right. So lots of great stuff. If you want to see more of some of the highlights that I've been watching, look at the Geek Library for show notes on episode 769 over at chuckchat.com in the Technorama section. We'd love it if you did that. We don't have any ads. We don't get any revenue from that. So feel free to look around and maybe you'll find a new YouTube channel that you're interested in as well. Until then, our question of the week for you until next time is, would you rather live on a terraformed Mars with thin atmosphere and limited Earth contact, or live in a massive orbiting space station, which is crowded and artificial everything?
DS9.
Or Babylon 5, or name your favorite sci-fi show with a space station.
Yeah.
DS9 didn't seem that crowded.
No.
And there were a lot of people coming and going.
Mhm.
Orbiting space station means you could have a way out. Terraforming Mars. I'm going with the space station.
Are you? All right.
Mars just seems way, after watching The Martian, way too many things to go wrong.
Yeah.
I don't want to be growing poop potatoes to live.
Well, I also don't want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger with his eyes bugging out because his face protection
That was
broke.
Total Recall.
Yeah, no. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us. That brings us to the top of the hour, and we are out of here. Thank you very much, Craig, for all the stories
Sure.
and helping put all this together.
Hey,
Thank you, listeners and viewers, for watching and listening.
remind everybody. Hey, we
Oh,
invite
yeah.
you to
We're coming up on 20th anniversary.
coming up
Our
on 20th
20th
anniversary.
anniversary of Technorama is May 1st,
Mhm.
2025. So if you want to call us and send us good wishes or ask what the heck we're still doing this for,
It's a podcast experiment gone wrong.
that's exactly what it is. We'll put it on the screen for those watching and tell you for those listening, 707 530 2428, or you could record your own and email it, or just send us an email, technorama@chuckchat.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, please be kind.
20 years, not many podcasts can still say that.
Yeah.
And we're still having fun, and a lot of it is because of the followers, the listeners, the patrons. Everybody's been doing a great job. We
Well,
love
what
doing
did
this.
what did I coin a long time ago?
If without any listeners, it's just us talking into the
It's just an MP3 sitting on a server.
just a couple of nerds talking to each
but
other.
when you add the listeners, it becomes a podcast. It's a community.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a community. Yes,
Yeah.
not a cult.
No, not a cult.
All right. Thank you. And until next time, let's tell them more of this wonderful info. There it is. I hit the button and didn't do anything the first time. I already did my thank yous. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, sir.
patrons. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us, whether you're doing this live interactively online right now on Sunday nights, 8:30 Eastern time, plug, or you're watching later, listening later on your own time. Hopefully you're listening to this before May 1st. If not, you can still send a message. We'll read it in August. We'll read it in 2029 if we're still around.
It's podcasting.
707-530-2428 or email technorama@chuckchat.com. Search for us anywhere. Tell a friend about Technorama. Make them listen. And until
right.
next time, Craig, give us a binary high five.
All right. 101.
I'm trying to fix the show notes with a typo, and I'm making more tone. This is
Don't do it now. We're recording.
bye. Done.
Right.
There was a T missing from the word first time. It said first time. So I tried typing. I got a Y. Like, that's not right. Backspace. And I got an R. This is
Right. Hey, there was a sign today. I forget all the words, but it said something and something. And it was one of those where you insert the letters into the sign, for a
oh,
business.
yes.
And the N was backwards. And I kept looking at it going, why is this whole thing doesn't look right? I couldn't figure it out. It's only because the N was backwards. I was like, oh, nothing's misspelled. It's just stupid N.
There was I was doing the AV at church last week, and we have a lady that sets up all the lower thirds titles for us beforehand, which is a great time saver because there's probably 20 of them for every week. And we usually go through and do a quick check, like, is this the right hymn number? Is this the right gospel reading?
Verse.
Just check them. Yeah. But I don't read the text on every title. Well, about 5 minutes before we were to sing one of the songs towards the end of the service, I read it, and it's in this really small thumbnail. Like, the song is supposed to be called Borning Cry. She missed N, and it said Boring Cry. Fix, type. Yeah. And meanwhile, you're also supposed to be thinking, what's the next shot? What are the viewers at home looking at? Doing all this other stuff while you're like, do I have time to fix this? Is the guy almost done reading or saying his prayer or whatever? Because like, quick, fix it. It's Borning Cry, not Boring Cry. So now Brandon, the 17-year-old,
boring cry.
The other guy, the 17-year-old, we laugh about that too. He's like,
that's funny.
Check the titles. So I'm literally going through them, bring it up, read it, put it down, bring it up, read it, put it down.
There's a sense you could use AI. You could scan it and just have it make any corrections, please.
Nah.
You
can. It's in the PDF. You'd have to look for the hymns, the verses, any special announcements, because it could be done. But anyway, we're going to sign off the live stream and go and record our Patreon show. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.